What's going on, everybody? You know who it is. This is Austin, and this is the Austin Smith Real Estate Podcast, where we talk about real estate and we talk about lifestyle. Today's show, it was awesome to bring this guest on because, like with every other couple of episodes, I love to throw personal development, professional development, mindset development, because that is exactly what helps us go from where we are to where we want to be. And similar to, when I was bartending many years back, and a lot of people would ask me, is bartending hard? Did you have to go to school? What about learning all the drinks, yada, yada? And I was like, bartending is 80% personality and 20% making drinks. And the only reason why is because if you make a drink and it sucks, you throw it out, you make a new one. But it's 80% personality, which will fill your tip jar. And success and, especially real estate business is almost the same, where it's 80% mindset and 20% mechanics. It's just the fact that, vice versa, the mechanics at the 20% make up 80% of the income. So, a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. If you or anyone that you know has benefited by listening to the Austin Smith Real Estate Podcast, please go into iTunes, leave me a rating and review. Let's continue to share this message. And if you know anyone that can let us tap into their expertise on the show, please let me know. Let's get them onto the show. Guy, gal, does not matter. Without further ado, let's get into the show. What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning into the show today. We have an awesome guest, and I'm pretty sure as you've been following the Austin Smith Real Estate Podcast that you are able to see that I love doing episodes on mechanics, where I'm showing you how to go about investing in real estate, what you need to invest in real estate, finding deals, putting deals together. But I would be remiss if I didn't make sure that I throw in an episode every now and again in regards to mindset. And the reason why is because I realized that before I even got into the mechanics, the mindset shift that had to happen was almost imperative. And it's the only difference between you wanting to do this business or wanting to invest in real estate and choosing to invest in real estate. So today's guest, he's a doctor of psychology, an author, a speaker, a coach, and a businessman himself, an entrepreneur. He's the founder of Renovatio Leadership Institute, which is a training institute for the development of optimal human performance and self-leadership development. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to the show, Dr. Michael Amos. Michael, thank you for taking the time to come on the show, brother.
Thank you, Austin. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. Excited.
I know we won't be able to dive into all of the accolades that you've been able to achieve, but I do want to pick your brain because the first conversation that I had with you, it kind of reaffirmed everything that I have done and have to do to continue to change mindset. And I believe it's such an important piece that, separates individuals the opportunity to think about their goals and then actually achieving them. But before all of that, tell us how you got started, how you found yourself to the success that you are today.
Well, so for me, to be honest with you, and you can actually find this in my book. It's called The Road to Renovatio. I talk about my youth. I talk about like the experiences I had as a young guy, as a young cat. Running. I've been running my whole life, and the whole physical fitness thing. So I was very much and always have been into being physically fit. But one of the things that I found was always a problem was the fact that I had really good skill mastery as far as developing the skill sets to, to perform. But what most of us lack is that self-mastery, that ability to really focus your mind and direct your focus in your mind. And, I went through a lot of different things. I won't really get into the details of that. I want you guys to read the book for that purpose. But throughout my life, I went through different things, and I realized that really the optimal way to achieve anything had to come from another place. And so I realized it was all about the mind and the mindset. And so I began really focusing and working on mine to overcome the limiting beliefs that really hampered me in my life.
And I actually want to touch on limiting beliefs as we dive into the meat of this thing. But the Rotarran of Osteo, if anybody's listening, you can get a free copy on me. All you have to do is just share this episode either on social media or to anybody that you know. Send me an email that you did, and one individual, we have the opportunity to get a copy of this amazing book. It is a game changer. I haven't even gotten through all of it, but in the very beginning, he sets the tone of what you're about to get into, and that's a total mindset change. Because anybody that's achieving at a very high level will tell you that the only difference is the mindset, mainly. So let's jump into this. Limiting beliefs and, getting ready to embrace change. Because we all have that picture or image in our head of how it could be. And we all know what it feels like to have that image in our heads of doing whatever that we're doing that gives us like the most joy and the most happiness. And we feel this unshakable spirit of energy that says to us like, yes, I want to do this. This would make me so happy. Whether that's traveling the world, relaxing on the beach and running a business from the beach, whether that's, whatever that is, we all have that's deep inside of us. But it's so hard to bring that out. To start, and because individuals know that it's a mindset change, how do we prepare ourselves to make the mental change to go after our goals?
So one of the problems that I think that most people have is when they think about, they can see themselves, they romanticize on the idea of being something more, or really what I call that is them being the better version of themselves. But when they start to think about the process of actually how to do it, or they really think about what it requires to do it, it makes them tired. Or it makes them feel uncomfortable, or they feel a sense of fear. Now, what you're fighting is actually homeostasis. So that is kind of like your body has a natural desire to keep you safe. Okay? So we're wired for safety. We've always been that way. That's why you're able to notice things when they're off, because that's the way we're made. We're made to notice anything that might affect our safety. Now, homeostasis really is the ability to keep the body and the mind, to keep everything in balance. So when it's too cold, what does the body do? It warms up. Now, as a kid, you may have developed certain thought patterns, which came from maybe your parents telling you, you're not good enough, or you can't do this, or a coach telling you that, you're never going to make it to state. I remember a coach said that to me, but I overcame that. Because I didn't live in that belief, right? So my point is, from a young age, you're programmed with certain beliefs, values, which you act on through your behaviors. And once that's programmed in you, it becomes kind of like the baseline with which the mind and the brain operate with. And it's meant to keep you safe, but they're basically rules that you actually have to break in order to move out of a state of that comfort zone to get to the next level of growth or success. So in order to do that, what you have to do is not just think about, oh man, this is going to be great to become successful, but you have to begin programming your mind repetitively, maybe by putting yourself into uncomfortable situations to snap your brain out of that level of homeostasis that it's in. So it's conditioning. It's like an athlete that goes into the gym and they start with 45 pounds, right? And then the body gets used to that. And then they move up to 150 pounds. So you have to recondition your mind and your brain. So you have to do that because it's almost like a muscle. And that can only be done by putting yourself into uncomfortable situations. One of my favorite samurai guys, his name is Miyamoto Musashi. That's one of the things that he always talked about was put yourself into uncomfortable situations and get yourself out of them. Because what that does is it makes you stronger, it makes you harder, and it changes your mind. It helps you rewire your thinking.
Now, how and it's that's amazing. And one component that is such a big factor in it is fear. And
yes,
when looking at change, right? Because when you think about it, we've all, like a good portion of us, have experienced change, and we can always connect the dots looking back, and we're like, oh, well, we had no problem changing. Half the time it's because we've been put into a position where we're forced to change. But how
exactly.
do we, right? So like there's those situations where we're forced to change, where we have no other option. But by then, I don't want to say it's too late, but we could have been handled that situation if we made the change earlier. How do we get over the fear aspect of making the change? Is it something that, we just have to dive into and completely submerge ourselves? Or do we boil the frog, where we slowly start to adjust the temperature and slowly start to get into an uncomfortable position? What do you recommend?
I would recommend that depending on how mentally tough you are, you either go slow or you go all in. So it just depends upon the nature of your personality. But to answer your question, this is why when one of the things about the mind is that we have a natural fear to we don't like being uncomfortable, or we don't like the unknown. So that's why goal setting is so important. And I know people talk about goal setting and setting SMART goals, but here's the reality of it. Not only should you set SMART goals, but you should set goals where you chunk your goals. And that's because it allows the mind to just focus on the moment in front of it. Okay? High performance is actually achieved when you have moment to moment focus. So you're mindful and you're aware of the moment that you're in, and you're not focused on the past and you're not focused on the future. You're just focused on what's going on right now. So when we set goals allow us to calm our mind, and they allow us to just focus in on what's most important for us right then and there. Because if you think about when you are jumping into a new, like a new venture, whatever it is, how many distractions are in the way that affect your ability to really focus on what you need to get done? We spend so much time trying to figure out, well, what should I do about this? What should I do about that? Well, you need to have a plan, right? So goal chunking is a powerful way to help you. So if you have a big goal, break that goal down into smaller chunks. Right. So if you want to ride the Tour de France and win it, what you have to do is you have to focus on process-based goals, and then focus on your performance in the process that you're going through. So that'll keep you directed and focused, but it's also a way to keep that fear down or keep it at bay.
Excellent. And you're setting me up to now set you up with kind of the next topic that I wanted to talk about, because you mentioned, the SMART goals, and, everyone has, everyone can write down their goals. And, I want to touch on process-based versus task-based, or process-based versus outcome-based. But even before
Right.
that, when dealing with goals, and writing them down, and seeing what you essentially want to become. And I guess if you can answer the question in one sentence, how can we remove that limiting belief that says, who's to say that you can't go from $5,000 a month to $20,000 a month or $15,000 a month or whatever that number is? How and that immediate voice in our heads like, you can't do that. How do we remove that limiting belief to know that those goals that we set are possible?
Well, so first of all, the first thing that you're going to want to do is you have to become aware of that limiting belief. A lot of us aren't even aware of the limiting beliefs that we have, but we know that they're there, and you can kind of identify them based off of what you consciously say and what you actually do,
Right.
or what you actually believe or say in the moment. So if you number one, become aware of what you say and what you speak, because you're programming that limiting belief into your subconscious mind. And in order to change that, you have to refute that belief. So when you start to hear, these critical voices in your head, you don't just allow those voices to just keep ruminating or just going around in your head. You have to force those voices, you have to condemn them, so to speak, right? So we're not talking about craziness. We're literally talking about when you hear things like, I'm not good enough, or I can't do that. That's not possible for me. Well, that's why positive self-talk is important. So number one, do you focus on positive self-talk every day? Do you have positive affirmations? Are you listening to, positive or motivational speakers? All that stuff is very important, because what it's doing is it's reprogramming the subconscious mind. And then the other thing is, are you taking actions utilizing your process or that you've developed in order to keep moving forward towards what you really want? Right?
Awesome. And process, because you're talking about the task, and I tell people all the time, just move the first stone, because if you move the first stone, something's going to happen where it gives you confidence, and then you can build on that confidence and continue to build on that confidence. And so then, and that's what, problems with people, and including myself before I really knew how to use them, but with affirmations, and affirmations, like, you can't just say it to yourself without being able to back it up. But in order to back it up, you have to start off small to be able to build the confidence that you can back it up. I mean, like you said, it's just like a muscle, and, moving the first stone might be lifting 10 pounds. But as you get used to that, or maybe it might just, moving forward essentially just helps you develop the confidence, so that when you do tell yourself, yes, I can do this, you actually have some type of proof or backing to support that subconscious thought. So with goals, process-based and outcome-based, can you touch on the difference between the two?
Yes. So a process-based goal is, okay, so I want you to think about, you have a goal. So your outcome is basically where you want to arrive at. Okay. So if I were going to take you on a drive, right, and we were going to California, the outcome is where we want to get to, right? Now, to be honest with you, outcome is something that's really not under your control. You don't have control over whether you're going to get there or not, because there's extenuating factors that always impact how quickly you get there, right? But you do have the ability to manage the process. For instance, in order for us to get there, we have to make sure, one, we put gas in the tank, right? We have to make sure the tires are they're working well. And I have to make sure that I'm focused on my drive, right? So if I'm aware of the process and I'm doing what I need to do in the process, I'm eventually going to arrive at my outcome. If that makes sense.
Perfect sense. Makes perfect sense.
So when you think about the idea of process or outcome, the one thing that I will tell you is reason why we don't hit the goals that we want to hit is because most of us are focused on the outcome. We're trying to control something that is external, and it's not something we can control because it's more of an environmental thing. Whereas the process is more of what is internal. We can control that process to get us to the outcome.
It's awesome because task-based helps remove a lot of the, I guess, getting attached to the expert, or like you said, getting attached to the outcome aspect of it. And it doesn't happen often enough that individuals, including myself, although I am aware and although I put effort into it, I'm not obviously where I want to be, which is why I'll be, signing up for the coaching program because it's from where I am to where I want to go. And mind you, I had a major mindset change, after quitting my job, going into an environment that I've never been before, depending on performance in order to, pull in money. And, the major mindset change has been, amazing. I would have never thought that I would have done this, for myself. And now that I've seen the results, it's like, how much higher can I take this thing? So I think, focusing on the task-based goals have been a lot easier. But I think the only ingredient that makes those task-based goals possible and effective is discipline. And this is my theme that's coming up, especially for 2019, discipline. Because I'll bring you through a hypothetical example and I just want you to touch base on it. People ask me, how can I get started investing in real estate? All right, no problem. Here's how we'll do this. What do you want to do? I want to flip a home. No problem. I want to flip, I want flipping to be my business. No problem. First thing that you have to do is let's focus, the goal, instead of worrying about the big outcome, let's focus on the small outcome. Let's flip one house. That's the outcome, right? Okay, what do I do from there? Here's what you do. You talk to 5 people a day and just tell them that you're buying homes. You are in the business of buying homes. Just do that. That's all. And I guarantee you 9 out of 10 of them won't do it. They won't do it. And that's the task-based part. You don't have to worry about anything major, but even if the task was talk to 5 people a day and tell them that you're buying homes, or talk to 5 real estate agents and tell them that you're buying homes, eventually somebody's going to bring you a deal. It's inevitable, but it's the discipline of literally calling 5 people and just doing 5 people a day, and it'll change your life. But what's easy to do is also easy not to do. But how do we develop the discipline? Because 5 people a day is going to get you 1 deal a month, or 1 deal a year. Fine. What happens when you bump it up to 10? What happens when you bump it up to 20? What happens? There's obviously different strategies, but I'm just giving you, a particular scenario. How can we develop discipline in our lives?
Well, okay, so here's the thing, and you run into this, I run into that often too, when you have someone in that you're coaching, and they want to make a change, but here's the problem: most people have an anti-mastery mindset, and what that means is that they have this belief that what they want, they can achieve it in 2 days or in 5 weeks, or there's always a formula for success, and so anti-mastery behavior is something that's common in our society in general. And actually, there's a book called Mastery by George Leonard, and he talks about this whole idea of anti-mastery. So it's something you guys might want to check out. And it's all about high performance and discipline. But mastery is the opposite of that. You mentioned, you mentioned discipline, but the power of discipline is learning to wait. Most of us are not willing to wait on greatness. We think that, that it's got to happen in our time, but things don't happen in your time. They happen when your mind has made the right connections and the learning has really taken its, toll. And you've built up some amount of understanding, and now success is evident. So like we forget that it's a process of learning. So learning to be disciplined is very important. And one of the things that you can do is you can start honestly by one, getting an accountability buddy. So somebody that keeps you accountable. So if you know that you're not good at, following through, well, you need a coach, or you need somebody that's going to keep you on the straight and narrow in the beginning. Why? Because you're overcoming homeostasis. You're overcoming that desire to be comfortable. You're overcoming that fear of what if this doesn't work out? Because all of those things play a role in discipline. All of those play a role in being successful. When someone comes to you, Austin, and they say, "Hey, you know what? I want to flip a house." They don't really know what they're really saying. It's like when you say, "I love you," and then you get married. Marriage is different from from just dating. You start to realize what you really got into when you really commit to the process. So number one, that person has to develop a level of commitment to the process. So they have to understand what the process is, number one, get committed to the process. And they do that, like I said, by setting those goals, have an accountability buddy, and honestly tracking daily and weekly what you did that day or for that week. Most of us don't do that. Important. One of the things I have my clients do is they keep mastery journals. And it's not because I just want them to journal about, today I ate, rice noodles. Nobody cares about that. The reality is elite performers, they have journals. Michael Phelps has a journal. Serena Williams has a journal. Why? Because we're able to track our performance. We're able to track our mindset. And then when you look back over the course of a year, you can see how you actually grew in progress. Because the outcome is not important. It is the growth that happens in between that is where mastery is developed.
What do you think stops people from taking action? And I guess we might have talked about this in the beginning, but there's even me when I first started, like I was an information junkie. So I would take in loads of information, loads of education, and a lot of people also do the same where they're knowledgeable. They have the intent. What's the difference between that and taking the first step? Is it, and like I said, I guess we've talked about it, but, is there anything more that you can add from that? Because, it's like, yeah.
Well, number one, like that whole idea of analysis paralysis is so common with most of us. But where we end up, where it faults us is it's actually it becomes an excuse to not move, to not do anything. So really, honestly, what the problem comes down to is a low level of self-efficacy or the belief that I can do this. Everything stems from a thought, right? Everything stems from emotion. You need to have emotion creates motion. Okay. So you can't just know something. You have to believe it. You have to feel it and then act upon it. Right. And so where we go wrong is I think one thing that you can do is you can just move forward, no matter what that is, and not be afraid of the fact that you may fail or make a mistake. So what keeps us back is that we analyze. We want it to be perfect, and perfection does not lead us to greatness. It just holds us back, and it causes you to think small, is what I believe.
Oh, agreed. And as we kind of start our descent, what, let's put you in a scenario where I'm an individual who, maybe works a full-time job and I'm interested in getting into real estate. And I've watched the HGTV shows, which I despise because they don't show the real process. They show the glitz and glamour of it, which is awesome, but they don't show the process of it. But, some individuals, they've seen it on HGTV. They, their family member, friend, whatever the case, for whatever reason, they want to get into real estate investing. They heard they can make lots of money, have free time, flexibility, but, they're in that 9 to 5 mindset, but they want to make a change. So they come and they say, you know what, Mike, I heard you on Austin's podcast. It seems like you can really help me change my mindset. I want to be able to quit my job by investing in real estate. And I want to do it specifically through flipping houses. Because that's what I like. I like turning ugly things into beautiful things. It's now our first coaching call. What are you saying to this individual that helps them start the process, not change them overnight, but start the process on the road for them to becoming a successful real estate investor?
Well, the first thing that I would want to, the first thing that I'd be doing, Austin, is I'd be asking you why you really want this. Because you say you want to be successful real estate, house flipper. But what does that mean? See, and the reason why I ask you this is because the problem with many of us is we have these ambiguous visions. We have these ambiguous ideas about life and about what we want or what we don't want. Sometimes we don't even know what we want or don't want or why. So the first thing that I would honestly be doing is we'd be clarifying and defining what that looks like. When you say, I want to be successful, house flipper, well, what does that look like? It's more than just, I'm going to flip a house and I'm going to be happy. You've seen that. That's not what keeps people in the saddle. That's not what keeps them staying at the process. Because think about this. When you think about something from the perspective of mastery, right? Mastery is a long-term process. But what people want, they want mastery. They want the outcomes of mastery, but they settle for an anti-mastery mindset. And so that's why they quit. So they might have this vision that they want to craft or they believe that they can craft. But the problem is, what are you willing to do? How much are you willing to struggle to get to that vision? And so I would start you out by crafting a vision, because we have to find your true meaning or purpose behind what you want, because otherwise you're not going to get there.
And it's so interesting because every time I speak with a coach or, a life coach, business coach, and that first question comes out, I cringe at it every single time. And the only reason why is because as I start to talk about all these like goals, dreams, aspirations, these visions, everything that I start to talk about, I don't want to say it gets shredded, but the individual I'm talking to, and this kind of just happened with our conversation the other day, it's like, well, can't you also achieve that just by doing this? And you're like, yeah, I can. Like, so why do I want, you know what I mean? Like, why do I want all of this? Or, the conversation will just be, okay, well, I do feel a strong, so in my example, I have a strong passion or developed the recent strong passion for traveling. And obviously, real estate is one of those vehicles that allows me to do that freely. And on the flip side, I also feel like I have to be here every single day to make sure that the business grows and the grind continues. And, we like just kind of dissecting that particular mindset, because you can work extremely hard and be traveling? Like, why can't you do both? Like, why do you feel like you have to give up the other to receive the other, or receive the other more? So, that question always kind of chops me up. And it's always interesting to hear just, speaking to coaches, just to have them kind of play devil's advocate for you to open your mind to like things that you never even thought was possible.
Right. No, that is true because, I think one of the most difficult things for the mind is, or for us when we are in the process of thinking, is making up our minds. And when you have somebody else there to help you to reflect on your thoughts, what you end up doing is unraveling that contentious nature of the mind, because that's one of the difficulties of the mind is by nature it's contentious. So like if you don't have purpose, right, and you walk into a store, you're going to be overwhelmed by all the options. But if you have a purpose, you can walk right into the cereal section and pull out the cereal that's specific for you and not waste time on all the other options because you know exactly what you want and why. And so through, self-reflection, you're able to really hone in on what you want. And so that's why it's so important to understand, why you're directing yourself in a specific manner or why you want a particular goal, because it allows you to redirect your focus when you need to. And that's where the, goals are important. And that's where the ability to keep yourself motivated is important. But it all starts with having a meaning and a purpose for why you do what you do. Beautiful.
And we're going to start to wrap this up. I'll say one thing and we'll jump into the core four. Here's one limiting belief that you're going to have to start to unravel as we continue our conversations. But me and my wife have always, still continue to flirt with the idea of moving into a different state, preferably somewhere that's warmer, because I'm just tired of the cold that New Jersey has. And
come to Atlanta, buddy. That's where I am.
Man, and real estate out there, like it's moving. So I can only imagine. And, the limiting belief is, just starting over. And why, my limiting belief is going to the dark place financially that I've been while, quitting my job and growing the business. And I guess I don't want to go back there, but no one's saying that I have to go back there. So like, that's a limiting belief that I'm going to have to get over, because that is the plan. Hopefully in the next, few years. I don't see myself staying in Jersey forever, but anyhow, going into the core four, which are the 4 questions that I ask each and every guest on the Austin Smith Real Estate Podcast. Question number 1, what is your favorite aspect about coaching?
Transformation. It's when you've got a client that over time, when they start to see the better version of themselves, so the vision that they've crafted in the beginning when we started out, they start to see that Rembrandt or that Picasso of themselves. That is what's amazing. Then they start to see, because it's like, that old mind is shed and that new mind becomes apparent and real, and they become powerful, that they become warriors, become beasts of the mind. That is what I look forward to. Transformation.
Awesome. Second question, favorite business or personal development book, and you can't pick your own.
Well, I would say, to be honest with you, one of the best books that I've read would be Mastery. This book by George Leonard, The Keys to Success and Long-Term Fulfillment. And I do suggest this book for anybody in any field, because the idea of mastery is where expertise is really, really developed. Or Peak. There's another book called Peak, and I can't think of the author right now. K. Anders Ericsson. The book is called Peak, and he focuses on the idea of expertise. So if you're thinking, as a realtor, or house flipper, whatever the field is. Number one, mastery is all about developing expertise. It's something you can start at any point, at any time. But recognize that where you learn the most is when you are on those plateaus or in the wilderness, so to speak. That's the best time to learn and to grow, because that's what's happening. And when you make those connections mentally, you are going to be moving yourself closer to that better version of yourself. So I like these books because they help you to understand that, like, what's most important isn't so much the skills you develop, but it's the mind that you're developing, that new personality that you're developing.
Love it. Question number 3. What are some of the fun things that you like to do in your spare time down in Hotlanta?
I do love to run. I like to lift weights. I love reading. I'm an avid reader. And I like salsa dancing.
There we go. That works. I'll take that. Question number 4. Mike, where can people find you at?
So you can find me on www.renovatio.com. You can find me at michaeldamos.com, and you can call me if you want. If you want to call me, 719-930-2545.
Beautiful. Mike, you're dropping some gold, and I hope the audience got a chance to get some nuggets of information that they can at least start to implement and act on right away. If it's something that they want to achieve, like they have the possibility, that goes for the audience, that goes for yourself, that goes for myself, and that opportunity is out there, and you can literally change your world. Change your world. Mike, thank you for taking the time, brother. Appreciate you.
Oh, man, it was a blessing. Thank you so much, and I look forward to our discussions as we keep moving forward.
Well, I get a chance to talk to you about that right after we hang up the phone right now.
All right.
I appreciate you.
All right.
Thank you,
Take
Mike.
care. All right. Bye-bye.